I agree with you when you bring in the bit of the mentors. We let the coaches at school to take position into our children's lives. The question that you asked, Susan, that when we know we tend to force our our unmet desires. Do you know why? The other factor is because we are not exposed to the current situation as parents. We've not taken time to better ourselves, to understand, to get the knowledge, to understand what is happening around, what is the trend around the world, what is happening, what is that is, you know, what is driving this world right now. Because if you get to know that, then you're very comfortable to let your children take that a different path from what you have known traditionally in your home. So the bit of we don't know everything and we are not exposed. So like you said, can we as parents learn to let the administration or the school help us in the areas of mentorship, or bring the coaches on board and the different resource persons speaking into our children's lives? Can we also maybe also make effort maybe to listen in what is being given to the kids, that even when these children bring the write-up at home of this is what is now going on, mommy, these are the new courses in the world, if I did this kind, this is where I should, the universities that I can go to, these are the jobs available right now, this is how much they are paying them in the world. But even when that document comes home, how many parents look at it? Exactly. So at the end of the day, you're still stuck in your analog mind, you know, the traditional way of doing your subjects and the courses that you knew that were trending at that time in your time, but right now they have space.
So much.
Yes, so much.
There's a lot of engineering.
There's so much for them.
Yes, planning on building cities somewhere up on
when
Mars.
the child talks about robotics, you're like, as in, because you don't even want to think of the course that's coming with the computer she's asking for, and any other, you know, online courses that are coming. Some of them are actually they're actually free, but we are not actually even subscribing for them. We're not even taking time to look at what our children can utilize. So it is us, the parents, who have to change our mindsets. We need to change our mindsets and walk this journey with our children in this new era.
Well, I remember my son finished his year 13. I think it's over a year ago. So he should have concluded his first year at uni. And I remember we struggled so much on the kind of course that he should do. I was for the traditional courses. Actually, it was more of engineering. But I reached a point where I realized this is not what, because I kept on asking him, is this what you want? And he would be like, he never came out openly to say yes. And it had come to where fees had already been paid. Of course, the university had already been gotten, the fees had been paid. And it's, of course, in that moment when I had started this journey of understanding my children, and I realized that I was pushing, because I remember I kept on asking him, how can you be at this age and you do not know what you want to be? I kept on telling him, you know, I came to know what I wanted to do when I was in primary school. Why? Simply, I was sitting outside and I had this cousin who came to my mom, because my mom used to contribute to his tuition. And I had a conversation where that cousin was telling my mom, actually my mom was like, so this, I remember he was doing law. So my mom was like, so people who do, but he was actually doing history, economics and literature. He was in S6, HSC. His combination was history, economics and literature. So I remember seated at the veranda, I had him say, I do history, economics and literature. So my mom was like, when somebody does such a combination, what do they turn out to be? And he was like, you can become a lawyer, you can become a journalist, you can become, I think there were like three things that he
can become
mentioned.
a teacher.
So I remember then, during that time, there was Inspector Derek. And I used to love this lady who used to disturb. Those were in the 80s. I think those were the 80s. I used to love this lady that used to disturb Inspector Derek. She always put on these suits and she had high heels. And she kept on running, seeking for information from Inspector Derek. And I was like, that is what I wanted to do. And then I knew she was a journalist. So for me, then I knew. First of all, I knew the combination that I would have to take when at HSC, and I knew the course that I would do when I eventually get into university. So thanks be to God that that's what I got, and at the end of the day, I did the course that I wanted. So when dealing with my son, I kept on wondering if I could get it.
That you don't know?
If I could get
At
it
that age.
at that age, you are 17. How can't you know what you want to be, what you want to do? Because then I can't help you. So I remember taking a step back, because I was like paying over $40,000 and sending somebody out there. Then for a whole year, they're in this course, then they come back, Mommy, this is not what I wanted to do. Why? Simply because you pushed them and they were able to accept what you wanted, just to, you stop nagging them. They go and do it. But then when they reach there, they realize this is not what I wanted to do. So we called time out and we said, okay, let's have a gap year. Brought back to the university and said, let's have a gap year. And thankfully, the university gave him that gap year. And this time that he has been around without going to university, he has actually realized what he wants to do. Why? Because I decided to back off. And I allowed him to think through what he wanted. I stopped nagging him, I stopped projecting certain things onto him, and I told him that, you know, actually I remember a few daws ago I sat down with him and I told him, of course reflecting on what my father wanted us to do, get into the medical field, which none of us was interested in. I remember going and sitting with him in his room and I told him that, you know what, I want you to understand that you were created very uniquely, that each and every one of us has something that God has designed for them to do.
Sure.
So the best thing that you can do for yourself is find out what that is from God. And I told him even if you don't know how to pray, just say, God, what is it that I'm supposed to do with my life? Lead me, let me find my way. It doesn't have to be these long prayers where you take time. Just talk to him and he will guide you on what you're supposed to do. And I realized that he has started coming into positioning himself where it's not you pushing him. And simply the truth was that I was doing this out of fear, personally. Because I was like, at this age, you should know what you're supposed to do. And I was also afraid that when he goes out there, he's going to begin his own life. So I kept on wondering, Mommy is not there, Daddy is not there. What if? I kept on always thinking about the what ifs.
Can he take care?
I'm like, can he
make the
take
right
care
decisions?
himself? Will he make the right decisions? Will he do this? Coming from a place of fear. At least in my situation, it was coming from a place of fear. Can my son succeed where I am not? Can he thrive where I am not? Why? Simply because you're so used to always being there, telling them what to do, in control of them. In control of them. But I came to realize that when you let a bird fly, then they will soar. But for as long as we continue to control them, then they cannot become the persons that God created
Their
them
minds
to be.
get limited.
Be responsible to them, not for them.
Not for them. Responsible to them. Because as a parent, you are here to guide them. You guide them. That's why you see even with God, there is free will. God never imposes anything on us. God never imposes anything. He allows us to be. And it's when you realize how good he is, how loving he is, that actually you find yourself drawing yourself back to him when you realize that. So I think even with our children, we are just supposed to guide them. We are supposed to give them their space and let them be. Let them become their own persons.
Yeah, so we shouldn't impose our unmet desires on our children.
No, we should never. We should never. You actually find that most children out there are so resentful towards their parents. But they smile with you. They smile with you because you give them food, you give them shelter. You have heard where children, after they've left the presence of their parents and they're out there, they speak certain words which are so disrespectful. Why does a child speak like that? Simply sometimes, you know, a kid will go that, but mommy, do you think I don't understand?
Yes.
Mommy, you think I don't understand? You know, he's in pain. He's in pain.
And they do know who their parents are, because like I've had my boys gossiping about me, like, if you do this, she will do this. No, that's not what she does. This is what she always does when you do ABCDZ. So like, if they know me so well, why haven't I taken the time to know who they are, and then understand them, and then bring them up in that way, such that we have peace, and we don't have to be flexing.
You're still stuck in your role.
All the time. So
We end up being stuck in that role playing as parents. And you know, sometimes the more we do this, actually, the more we push
them away.
The more we push our children away from us, and the more they resent us, and the more they will seek for advice out there. They will coil back into themselves. But again, as we have these unmet desires and these goals that we would have loved to achieve that we didn't, we also have the unmet child. Each one of us has a child within them. Now, when that child is not handled, the unmet child is not handled, we still project these on our children. Some of the things that parents normally do, especially for girls, for instance, if a mother maybe was sexually abused, if a mother in her young age was sexually abused either by an uncle or by a family friend, and they never got to speak about it, or if they ever tried to bring it up with their parents, the parents shut them up. You know, it's like a parent is like, no, that can't happen. And especially when the adult comes to defend themselves, and then all these things are said about the child, then the child coils into themselves. So you find that if you raise a child if you have been in that place, if you've been in that place, like you were raped. Now, when our children grow up, especially the girls, you control them, and we don't discuss these things, because first of all, we feel they are so filthy, they are so dirty. How can my child look at me in that angle? I should never project this on my child. So you find that such things also those are the unmet children that we carry.
Even if you've not had plenty toys when you were
yes,
younger,
you never
tend to overstuff your child with you, like, no, I never had toys, so let me buy all the toys that my child asks for, or all the food that we never had of. We used to hear pizza in the movies. You're like, now let me get all that for my children. So because you felt you did not have that as a child, so you think you should
now do it in excess for you. So how do we deal with that unmet child in the inside of us, such that we do not project this unmet child on our children? How do we handle ourselves? How do we deal with that person? Because we have this unmet person that is struggling to come out. This person is always screaming. Sometimes if you were brought up in a very abusive home, in a very abusive home, other than molesting, maybe your parents used to yell a lot, they used to cane you a lot. How do you deal with that kind of person? I know that in most cases, you have to come to that point where you face yourself. You face yourself. Take a long look in the mirror and speak to that person. Because in most cases, when things happen in our childhood, especially we blame ourselves as children. Maybe our parents are always quarreling. Maybe my mom was correcting me, then my dad came and fought with my mom, and then maybe my mom leaves, or, we always struggle with that. Growing up, we struggle with all of that. We want all those questions answered. So the moment you come out as a child and realize that this was not my fault, the circumstances were there, because in most cases, by the time maybe one of the parent leaves, this has been a long way coming.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just that this one situation was the tip of the iceberg. So you find that a child will blame themselves, but when you grow up, some of the ways we deal with that unmet child is that we speak to ourselves. You have to come to that place where you trust yourself. And one of the things that can truly help us to come out of that is affirmations. Affirmations. If you were brought up and people called you ugly, they called you fat, you know, there are so many things that go on in our lives that we actually end up projecting out there. Some of the things that we have to tell ourselves, look at yourself in the mirror. Tell yourself how beautiful you are. You are created in the image of the Most High God. So we have to walk through this journey. And it's a process. It's a process that we all walk through. So how do you measure success in terms of parenting? Do you measure success as a parent by the quality of the relationship that you have with your child, or the effective control that you have over your child?
Personally, for me, it would be the relationship.
It's the relationship.
Yeah, I would measure with because I do not want to have a child who can't say anything to me, like something is wrong or something is right, or they have exciting news and they can't share it with me. They have shared it with someone has to tell me because it's not in line with what I want them to do. I might just hit them, something like that. So once I had an incident once with my oldest son. He was playing a computer game during English class, and the English teacher found him, like, because the computers are in front of like each, and I'm like, how could you do that? Now for him to tell me, the teacher didn't report him, but when he got home, he said, he looked at me, there's something I want to tell you. Then the way he said it, I was like, it's something bad. I'm like, okay, what did you do? Then he's like, I'll tell you. So he held my hand and told me how much he loves me. Then he just drops it like that. Then I was like, if I was this mean, like he would never have told me. So like, let me wait for that teacher. Let me see if the teacher will speak. Then I asked him, did you apologize to the teacher? Because you know what you did. So I asked him, so what you did, was it right? Do you think it was like, no? But I couldn't resist the game. So I referred, being a Christian, I referred back to the Bible. What does God tell us about temptation? Ask him to keep you away from temptation. Yeah, so that you cannot get into the wrong side. So I had to also apologize to the teacher, but the teacher's like, no, that's nothing. Those are teenagers. That's what happens to them. Then I told her, yes, but also he didn't do the right thing. So from then on, I started saying, no, let me start understanding. This boy is now a teen. I have to start raising him differently from when he was a younger child, a preteen. So I would value the relationship more. Control would be a little, like a few times, like you don't want them in the mall, at the mall the whole day, your child is coming back at 8 p.m. So that's the kind of control like I would want to have, like how much TV they would watch, how much gameplay they have, if they've gone out, who have they gone out with, who are your friends, where are you going, what are you going to do. That's the control I would want to have.
And I think that's actually responsibility. It's not control, but it's you being responsible.
Okay, if you put it that way, then
it's being responsible
as
a man.
Value the relationship more, the quality.
Because we can't let them again just go out and do whatever they feel like.
No.
Because of course there are certain things that they can't fully comprehend at the ages that they are. So Diana, how?
I totally agree with Barbara, and for me, I learned it, I think, the hard way. I had a background of a single mother. So you know that there's a very big difference when you're just single-handedly raising a boy child or children, and there's a difference also when there are two parents raising children actually. Of course, there's also broken homes that are going on and they live like husband and wife, but speaking from a single-handed mother's side, you have your own issues as a person. You have your own struggles, day-to-day challenges. You have so much to catch up with. You have so much to chase to make ends meet. So the time to concentrate and build that relationship is reduced. It's very, very minimal. So that's what I went through. And like she said, your child learns to confide into somebody else. So my child used to go to Aunt Lillian, and they were very free. Ian would get onto the taxi. He just stopped it recently. He would get onto a taxi and come up to Buganda Road. I'm going to see Aunt Lillian, and for me it was like, because they were friends, I was like, okay, yeah, you know, you let it be. But it's when he leaves the place, she will pick the phone and call me and say, please don't tell
Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
But he didn't know what he was talking about. He came here. I said, when did he? You said, did you know the other day, did you say, what time did he get home? And I'm like, oh, he came in slightly after me, and I was wondering where he was coming from. Then he said he had come from prayers, or he had gone for fellowship at Zoe, and I'm a bit okay with it. But later she would say, do you know what he told me when he came? This is what Ian's challenge is, or this is what his conversation is. Actually, do you know, he came to tell me such and such. Sometimes he has good news, but because mommy was preoccupied with so many things, you understand, so much is going on as a parent, you're blocked. Even when you don't, even the feeling of noticing that my relationship is not open to my children, you may not easily notice that, but they learn to confide in somebody else. And if that person they're confiding in is, God forbid, is not the right person, somebody can take advantage and mislead your child, sometimes for their own gain, you understand, and divert your child. But I have learned to do that. And when she told me that, you know what, don't react so much towards him, even when he comes in a little bit late, he's been visiting, get to understand, at least I've told you, you know the places he's gone to. The good thing, he's still open, he tells you I've been such and such a place. So welcome his discussion and listening. And that's what we've built with Ian. And now we speak properly. But slightly just take you back when you talk about failing to understand our children. He, sometime back, he expressed himself like, you know what, Mommy, you've not taken time to really understand me. Wow. I am my sister. Which is true. Not because she's a girl, but because for her she's more assertive. So for me, I was more comfortable with somebody who comes out and not know, yes, but this quiet child, this introvert, it has so much gold in him. You understand? So you get to discover, when you listen in, you get to discover that he equally brings joy to you. And he has solutions, and he has so many things going on around his life which make your life happy. You understand? But because you think, oh, by the time I finish the story with this one, it is, you understand? Okay, another day we shall catch up. So you go with it. She's, oh, madam, what she saw, because for her she's, you know, she's fast. So we need to learn to make effort and build the relationship, whether the person is a slow catcher, or somebody's an introvert, or somebody's assertive. We need to understand their temperaments. We need to understand the children we have. Then we can be able to build that relationship, because it's very, very key to have an open communication relationship. You'll get to know your child better. You'll get to discuss better. They'll get to express themselves better. And then you actually start doing, okay, this is now where he started going. Otherwise, you end up being blocked out of his life. And you end up being a loser.
And when the teenage years go by and they've blocked you, it's usually so hard to catch up. To catch up with them. When the university, it really would take a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work. You know, I remember that when you talk about having this kind of solid relationship with your child, which is not the control kind of relationship, but a quality kind of relationship. I remember there is this one day, as Diana said, I remember coming from work and getting home. I think it was about 5 o'clock or 6 or coming to 6. And I was extremely tired. But being that tired was no excuse for what I did. And I remember getting home and I found one of my daughters, the older daughter. You know, she is this kind of person. She's a free-spirited kind of person. I got home. And you know what normally announced you, now what made you realize that she was home? When you reach home, you find at the door, you'll find her shoes, you open the door, you'll find one stocking, you might find her school bag somewhere. And it was like a normal thing for her, such that even if you spoke and spoke and spoke, she would do it like for a week. Again, she forgets and gets back into this kind of routine. And even the house help, I would get home sometimes and I'm like, why don't you help her? She's like, I told her, but she just... So it was like a normal habit to her. That is how she does her thing. So I remember this day getting home and I found all this littered. And there she was in her usual place, lying down in a couch, watching TV, taking juice. And she really didn't care, still in her unit. Remember, they would get home at about 4 o'clock, so most probably for 2 hours, she's there. And yet, on the other side, her younger sister, before she goes to school, she knows what she will wear when she comes back home. So before she goes, she has even prepared what she will wear and she has put it aside. When she comes back from school, she will get into the house, remove her uniform, put it in the basket, change. If there's something to eat, she will eat and either watch TV or go out and play. So it always disturbed me. And I remember that day, I think, with the load that I was carrying, I reached home and I was so pissed. I remember calling her and I said so many things to my girl that were so hurtful and so painful. This was a child this is over a year ago, but this is a young child who is barely 8. I think she was around 8 years. I spoke to her like I was speaking to an adult. And again, I am speaking to an adult with so much anger. There was so much viciousness in my words that after saying all that I said to her, because I remember comparing her to her sister, I was like, this girl is younger than you, but she can do this. What is it that you can't get in your head? Why is it that you can never get anything right? There were so many things I did to her. And I remember walking into my bedroom. But as I walked through my corridor, I knew I had crossed the line. I knew I had made a big mistake. I really felt I had crushed her spirit. So I got into my bedroom, but still I knew it was wrong. And I think just a few minutes later, she burst out and cried, like somebody had actually beaten her. And you know, when she cried, I remember walking back and calling her. And when I called her, she said, I called her and I was like, why are you crying? Did I beat you? And the one thing she said was that, Mommy, you don't love me. Now, hearing that, and of course, in a position where I had already judged myself, I knew I had crossed the line. So hearing my child said that to me actually crushed me as well. I remember holding her, apologizing. I ended up crying together with her. I apologized. I told her I will never do it again. And you know what she kept on saying? She said, Mommy, you don't love me. And that actually didn't break me. So I remember lying down with her, telling her all these nice things. But you know, a child cries to the point that they are hiccuping.
Then you know they are really crying.
Yes. She was having hiccups. I felt terrible. I really felt terrible because on the outside, actually, people believed I was a good mom. I was a great mom, not only a good mom, but a great mom. So I was killing this child emotionally. I could have been doing all these other things on the outside to make her, but I was killing her emotionally. So I remember that day, before I slept, I could hardly pray, and I just said, God, just teach me to be a better parent. Why? Because I wanted to be that person that when my child is going through something, I'm the first person that she calls. And I believe that's every parent's desire. That whether my child has been held at the police as a teenager, if they have knocked, most probably done the worst thing, which could be knocking a cop and the cop dies on the spot. So definitely they are going to end up at the police. My desire is that my child should call me first. They shouldn't think about calling somebody else. So I remember telling the Lord that I know with this kind of parent that I am, that can never happen. Teach me how to be a better parent, to be a better mom. And of course, that is when I started my journey on bettering myself as a parent. And I have seen myself grow with my children. We have moved into another kind of relationship with all my children. And it is actually from that that I was even able to let my son, when I talked about my son being able to choose his own course and letting go of certain things, knowing that in order for me to be a good parent, I don't have to parent the way my parents parented me. I do not have to hand down to my children what my parents handed down to me as a way of parenting. With this generation, you have to understand your child. You have to know how to deal with them because it is a different ball game altogether. We can't continue parenting our children the way that we were parented. It may not seem like a long time ago, 40 years may not be a long time ago, but of course the dynamics are very, very different. Exactly. They are so exposed. They are so exposed. Our children are so exposed. Because I remember with my son, we used to have this tight relationship to the extent that when his siblings came into the picture, there was like this, you have come into my space. It took him long to warm up to his children, so we were tight. There were times when I would find him sleeping in my bed as a big boy, even when the babies had come. Now I would find him, but he started drawing back. Why? Because I had become this kind of monster mom. I had become this mom, you know. I had developed a language whereby it's my house, my rules. And I believe there could be parents out there who use such language. A child asks you because they want to understand, and you say, do it because I said so. Do it because I said so. The child simply needs to understand.
Things are different now. What you're trying to do. What are you up to? How did it come about? Why are we going to do this today in this home? Going forward, why are we doing it?
And in love.
Yeah, so that they can appreciate it. Otherwise, you sound like somebody who's just imposing your rules on them.